We got to talk about the 7-year-old girl by the name of Jacqueline Call who died in U.S. Border Patrol custody. Now, this story has been everywhere. It's been all over the internets, all over television, all over newspapers, and a narrative is being spun here. A lot of facts are being omitted. A lot of important details are just not being told to the American public. I'm going to give you the story in its full context without all the crazy narrative being put on top of it. Just pure facts from a logical, common sense perspective. First things first, the girl, Jacqueline Call, 7 years old, was traveling with her father in a group of 163 other migrants. They came to a point of entry in Antelope, Wells, New Mexico. The father and the little girl came from Guatemala, 2,000 miles away. And to give you a visual of how that looks, I'll place a map on the screen before you of where the little girl came from and where her and the father wound up. Now, the girl has a mother and 3 other siblings that are still back in Guatemala. Now, why aren't they in this big group of almost 200 people? I think because the goal was to have the father come with this little girl who can't be abandoned, go to the border, get into the country, and then bring the mother and the 3 other kids along with him in chain migration. That is what I think was going on, but I don't know, so I digress. My whole point is that they came from Guatemala to come to the point of entry with this big group. Now, this is where things get really hairy. This whole story happened. It starts on December the 6th, right around 9:15 p.m. The whole group goes to the Border Patrol agents at the point of entry and surrenders. There is a bus in Lordsburg, New Mexico, that's going to come down to take them from that point of entry up to the Border Patrol Station to get them processed or whatever the case may be. If they're from Mexico, they'll get sent right back home immediately. If they're not, then other concessions may be made. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be. By the time the bus gets there, the first bus that is right around 12:18 a.m. because, you have to call for the bus. It has to come down. It's about an hour and a half away. So 12:18 a.m., the first bus comes. 50 unaccompanied kids that have no father, no mother, no nothing are boarded onto the bus first. Now, I imagine this is not some kind of gigantic, Airbus. We're talking about like a school bus. So you can't have almost 200 people on the bus. So you got to come in waves with one bus. So first bus comes, it goes back, gets all the kids processed, settled or whatever, and then it comes back by about 5 a.m. At this point, the father and the little girl are being loaded onto the bus. At this point, and at this point only, the father informs the Border Patrol agents that his daughter is sick. To back up a little bit, once they first get there, right around 9:15 p.m., the Border Patrol agents are interviewing everybody and saying, hey, are you sick? Do you need medical care? The father signs a form that says he is okay and so is his daughter. So they were asked immediately if they needed any kind of medical attention. Also, when they first came to the point of entry, they had access to food, to water, and to restrooms. So when people are saying, oh, well, they weren't fed, they weren't given any kind of food, water, or no, all that was provided for them at the point of entry, but they needed to go to the Border Patrol Station to get further processed and then next steps after that. So 5 a.m., the daughter is sick. So the Border Patrol agents on the bus inform the people up at the Border Patrol Station, which is about an hour and a half away, that we're going to need a medic on site once we get there. Now, once they get there, the girl is treated immediately, but they're realizing that they're going to need more. So they call an ambulance. The ambulance treats her. They say, hey, we're going to need more. Then a helicopter is brought in. They fly her to El Paso. Some people are saying, hey, they were in Lordsburg, New Mexico. Why send her to Texas? Well, El Paso is right on the border of New Mexico and Texas. In reality, Lordsburg, where the Border Patrol Station is right in between geographically Tucson, Arizona, and El Paso, Texas as the next biggest cities. Albuquerque is much further away up north versus down south, which is where they were close to the border. So they fly to El Paso, get her into a great hospital. And by the way, I've not heard about any kind of money exchanging hands. These are people that are here illegally. They're not citizens, but that's a different story. So I digress. They get her to El Paso, get her right into the treatment. They send her to the ICU, pediatric care. She has liver failure, and eventually, unfortunately, she passes away due to sepsis and shock. What most of the media, or some of the media, I would say, are not reporting, places like NBC or whatever, they're not saying that the little girl had not been eating any food or drinking any water in the days leading up to her death in America. Now, I'm seeing on certain websites, certain blogs or whatever that mention it, that the father did not feed the girl or give her any water. And in some, they're saying that the little girl could not eat or drink. Now, that's a big difference. One would imply that the father was intentionally not feeding the little girl or giving her any water, because the father was okay. The other almost 200 people were okay as well. Nobody had any kind of serious illnesses or ailments other than the little girl, who passed away, unfortunately, 7 years old. If she could not drink any water or eat any food, that means that she was sick long before she got to the border. So maybe, just maybe, you stop in Mexico and try to get some treatment, or go back to Guatemala. How far in the trip were you when you realized that she could not eat or drink, if that was the case? You know, if you're kind of closer to Guatemala, why not go back home and get treatment there? Are there no hospitals there? Are there no hospitals on the way to the United States? Once you get into a caravan, walk or get on buses or whatever to make that trip just to get treatment. And if you needed treatment once you got there, then why did you sign the form once you got there that says that you're both healthy? If your little girl could not eat or drink, that means she was not healthy. So obviously, the little girl had not been eating or drinking enough, and it caught up with her once they got to the bus and she was vomiting. It's unfortunate that she died, but we're not to blame here. We did everything that we could as far as the USA is concerned. As soon as she got here, the first question was, do you need any medical attention? The answer was no. If you needed attention at the border, you should have said so. Water and food was provided for you at the place. Maybe she was eating and drinking there, but because of the long and arduous trip, a 7-year-old girl may not have been able to survive it. The reality is she shouldn't have been there. Why just bring the one little girl and not the 3 other kids that you have, or the wife? Why just her? It should have just been that single man by himself. But maybe, just maybe, if it was him by himself trying to get into the country, he would have much less sympathy than if he had a little girl with him. Maybe the girl Jacqueline was a pawn in the game to try to get everybody into the USA. I don't see another explanation as to why. You know, you're not going to just go all that way for medical care, and then when they ask directly, as soon as you get there, if you need it, you say no. So don't blame us for this. We did everything we could for the little girl. We got her attention as soon as it was realized that she needed it. If you want to blame anybody, put the blame on the father, put the blame on the mother, put the blame on those that were responsible for her care when she got into this world and before she came to that border patrol station, before she got to that point of entry in New Mexico. So that's what that is. If you see these headlines, read into it a little bit and read multiple sources. I found some sources on CNN, surprisingly, that were better than NBC. NBC totally neglected on their segment that she had not been eating any food or drinking any water in the days leading up to it, which probably caused the sepsis and liver failure. So that's pretty much all I got. So what say you? Do you think that the father is to blame for his daughter's death? Do you think that we're to blame as far as the USA is concerned? If we're to blame, how can that be so? We got her attention immediately upon knowing that she needed it. The first question that was asked is, do you need medical care? They said no. As soon as it was realized that she didn't need medical care, it was given to her. But the father could have given her food, given her water on the way there. Obviously, all the other individuals had food and water because they didn't have any problems medically. It was food and water once you got to the actual point of entry. What more could have been done? I don't have much more to say, but I wanted to put it out there and to give you real facts, real information. And I'll place all my sources in the box below if you want to read it for yourself and not take it exclusively from me. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments.